You're listening to the Belmar Bites podcast, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the pod. Matt, good to see you.
Good to be back.
There we go. Well, listen, there is a lot of talk out there these days about AI. We're recording this in early March of 2026, and we've been in this sort of AI cycle for the last, I guess we'll call it 3 years, and I still think we're, in the very early part of the first inning when it comes to what we're going to see with artificial intelligence. But certainly, there's been some news in our world as of late, talking about just the trend right now as it pertains to enterprise software. So I'm sure you've seen some of these comments on platforms like X and maybe others where people are questioning, is Salesforce, is ServiceNow, is Microsoft, or all of these enterprise vendors, do they have a place in the market in 5 years, 10 years? And maybe we'll start with that. I guess what are you reading? What are your thoughts in terms of sort of the fear that may be out there in terms of the replacement of these tools?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you said we're kind of at the start of this. You used the baseball analogy early on in the
First
inning.
inning, yeah.
First inning. Yeah, there you go. I'm more used to the hockey analogies. I think the end, I think there's 9 innings in baseball, isn't there? Unless you go extra innings.
There's 9 innings in baseball.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I think that time construct, I know we try to compare things to sports as well. I don't even think we can even know what that end is as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard terms like AGI, which is artificial general intelligence as well. Like, have we achieved that? Will we achieve that? Will it replace things? I think it's just so unknown at this point. So I would agree with we are so early on because the rate of change, I would argue, over the last even 2 months is so much more significant than I think anything that we've seen with new tools, new apps, new hardware being developed that is supporting this brand new ecosystem as well, the power and data demands. So I think we're so early on. So anything that we say right now it's almost like a prediction episode. Every single episode's like a prediction episode when we talk about AI. But I think the general fear, and I would say it's a fear, that people think AI is going to replace, be it the need for software development, that's going to replace, we can talk about knowledge workers as well, but let's pick on software developers at a start. Will it replace what a software developer does? We've talked about vibe coding. We've talked about all of these things. I think at its core, AI does not replace professions or jobs as a whole. What it does do is it takes away tasks. It makes things more efficient. But I think saying it's going to replace something, and I often tell people this, is overly simplistic. It's overly simplistic to think that it's just going to eliminate, eradicate that profession as a whole, because there's so many different parts to that as well. In fact, what it's really just going to do is it's going to evolve what the job description of a software developer might be, what the job description of a functional consultant might be as well. So that's the interesting part, is there's AI as the technology, but also just the trickle-down effect that it's going to have on all of these different roles, in which today's software developer already looks very different than a software developer 10 years ago, 20 years ago, to what it will be in 1 year. It's going to look so different as well. So that's my really off the cuff. It's being oversimplified right now.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I think one of the challenges that is out there is just this is all being painted with an extremely broad brush. So there's a real difference between an enterprise software company versus an enterprise insurance company versus a mid-market manufacturing company, and in the category we work with, public sector, nonprofit, like these organizations are so different, and they are so, I guess, vastly different, and the adoption and rate of change that they can consume is also vastly different. So if you're a maximum seeking profit oriented organization, well, you're going to make whatever investments that you think are appropriate, where many of these other categories, they just don't have the, either financial and or human capital that would be able to adopt these tools. So I think just painting this with a very broad brush, i.e., software developers, are going to be replaced. I think is very nearsighted and it's I think another maybe not analogy but phrase. It's just this is just part of the hype cycle and it's interesting. I was reading recently that OpenAI are who by all accounts you can with ChatGPT you can write software, you can build applications. At least that's what's communicated publicly. But they're hiring for a Salesforce administrator, and so it's kind of interesting that despite the claims that these tools will replace some of these apps, even the largest organizations and the most technology forward organizations are still hiring Salesforce administrators. And I don't know if you heard that as well with Claude or with Anthropic specifically. I mean, I know that's a much more developer friendly
Mhm.
model, and they're still hiring software developers. So if you go
Yeah.
check out their hiring page, they've got a whole list of software developers. In some cases, like very very well paid developers. So it's yeah, I think the challenge of painting any of this with a broad brush
Yeah.
is a mistake.
Yeah, and I think your initial question was like the replacement of said SaaS products like the Salesforce of the world, the ServiceNows of the world. And again, I think it's maybe a bit of hype, maybe overly simplistic to think that AI alone and people can vibe code, people can spin up apps really quickly will directly replace that. Because I think if you don't have a baseline foundation, I mean, Salesforce, look at what it is. It's a system of record. If you don't have a baseline of information or a foundation to work off of, AI can't really exist in itself. Like
Right.
it's there to create insights, but your system of records still needs to be be it your CRM. That's the thing that's managing your role-based permissions. That's the thing that's managing compliance. Like there's so many other layers to it as well. To think that AI is a magic brush that we're going to paint over and solve all these said problems as well. I want to transition this, and I want to get your thoughts too. We hear a lot about knowledge workers. I mean, we're in the knowledge worker space.
Right. Yeah.
We talk about the displacement in that. So maybe just let's talk about knowledge worker. What displacement, if any, or what changes or disruption do you see happening in this space as it pertains to AI?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, here we are, 2026. Like, maybe a good way to respond to that is like, what are we seeing in market? I mean, I haven't heard of any of our customers replacing people because of the AI tools that they have either purchased or built. I have one friend that I can think of that the organization he's with, they've I guess effectively they have taken their entry level workers and they've supercharged those individuals to be able to do more because of AI, but it has not come at the cost of replacing people. So, um, yeah, I think I'm still developing my view on this. I think if my view would be different if we were today seeing organizations reduce headcount. Um, it feels more, at least where we sit today, organizations are potentially getting more out of their teams than they were before, and that I think we could even argue that that's without a structured AI
Mhm.
initiative. And what do I mean by that? Well, we today internally we at Belmar we use some AI tools, but we also give our team the liberty to pick and choose what models they work with. But the type of work that they're doing is,
Yeah.
um, you know, it can be done by any of these models. So, like even looking at ourselves, we don't have a real structured deployment of AI, and I would argue that we're getting more done with the same number of people than we were a year ago, 2 years ago. So, I think that's I guess once we start to see disruption and reduction of headcount, then maybe my opinion will change on that. But another analogy that I've heard is, and I would suggest that there's some pretty bright minds out there thinking about this. And I was listening to somebody say that, we've gone through now, what, two or three revolutions in terms of,
Yeah.
industrial revolution. We moved from, agrarian to, manufacturing. And now we've gone through, the technology revolution where, more and more knowledge workers have been formed. Um, are we going to see a replacement of the horse and buggy in this case? I don't know. You know, I struggle to see that. At least, certainly, I struggle to see that in a short timeline, like the next 3 to 5 years. But um, we'll see. It certainly is a hot topic, something that I know you and I talk a lot about, and we get the opportunity to talk to customers about it, share our viewpoints. But yeah, I think knowledge workers are just going to be equipped to do more in the same amount of time and just produce a better outcome.
Yeah, maybe I'll give you kind of the common arguments I've heard, and maybe let's just be it steelman this or debunk it. But this is the argument for why knowledge work is transitory or knowledge work it will be replaced or disrupted. Argument number one, and I've jotted some of these down. Knowledge work exists because computers need human operators. So that's argument number one. Argument number two, AI removes the need for that translation between the intent and the actual execution. Number three, therefore, the argument that maybe will steelman or debunk here is knowledge work may compress dramatically. Um, I've got my so back to what you were sharing just about knowledge work. That's what I'm hearing. That's the argument here. But I think at its core, I was asked this question the other day at a dinner I was at: is what's going to happen to the agency or the consulting industry as well? There's some things AI can do. You talked about resourcefulness and productivity, the increase there, the expectation. The high watermark is higher for an individual because they're equipped with all these tools. But I think what AI can't replace is the relationship side of things, judgment,
Right.
accountability, liability. So imagine this, and this came up a little while ago when self-driving cars were, I mean, I guess you could argue they're even more prevalent now. But a couple years ago, there was a big case just around, well, what happens when a self-driving car gets into an accident? Is it the car that's at fault, or is it the person that's at fault? And just that whole, I'm not sure where it landed here exactly. I'm assuming it got settled because there's more adoption of this. But same kind of thing when you think about AI, like where does that risk get owned? I think at its core, the high watermark again for knowledge workers is higher because you have more productivity tools that they can use, and they have AI that they can be utilizing to augment a role, but it does not replace the need for liability, taking on that
Yeah.
risk, building trust as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And you,
Yeah.
just as a quick pulse, how many times have you asked a chat-based AI tool um, and had to challenge it to make sure it's not producing you back something that maybe is a confirmation bias to something that you
Yeah.
said as well?
Yeah,
So
well, for sure. That happens all the time, and I think it's just based on the quality of the prompt that you're feeding it. Give me your thoughts on this. I think that if we measure the economy in terms of the total output of all the people that are working in that particular economy, um, with AI, I actually see the case to be made to that the economy will grow because the same number of people will be able to produce more. And I think it's pretty easy to look at it through the lens of, well, we're going to see mass layoffs, reduction. I actually don't see it that way. Like I just think if and you'll think of our business, and I'm going to just make up some numbers here, but one of the metrics that we look at is what is the amount of revenue each one of our people can produce. And so let's just make up a number. Uh, let's say that's $1,000 a year that one of our employees could produce. Well, if with the help of AI, and again, over a longer time horizon, this will change. But what would happen if we could, with that same individual, not even really retooling or reskilling them, just equipping them, we could change that from $1,000 to $2,000 a year. Well, one that changes the metrics in terms of the profitability of our business, that grows the economy, that enables, arguably, you could say, hey, listen, that enables us to pay people more, to offer better benefits. Like I actually see that this being a very positive, uh, contributor to the economy, and yes, there's going to be rough patches, and yes, there's gonna be, some industries that are impacted far more than others. I mean, we haven't really taken into account robotics, which, I think these 2 now really need to be thought of together, but, just simply from the perspective of utilizing AI and, maybe bringing this back to even thinking about our customers and, the tools that they have. Like, I think that there is, we're still in the first part of the first inning of this game is even just understanding the use cases that can be somewhat commercialized. Either we build a product or we build a service around a particular task that a customer has, and it's a repetitive task, and we can, develop a widget that solves that at a much faster rate or with more accuracy or, with across more hours during the day than, a human being can do. And it's there to augment the human, and it's there to, I guess, be managed and prompted by the human being that has got, the context, the empathy, the
Yeah.
understanding of what the nuance is, and so I yeah, I see this being a very positive thing as we move forward.
Yeah, and I would agree with the that thesis as well, and that it doesn't replace. I don't think we actually have any data per se to be able to back that, nor do I think we have had enough water on the bridge to be able to make a
Yeah,
true, like, it has replaced things. And I think about our customers as well, and you use this like output model as well. I think what will happen is as output increases, expectations increase as
right.
well.
Yeah,
And when
yeah,
expectation increase, complexity increases. So I don't think it actually displaces your baseline number of knowledge workers that you need, or for our customers, it doesn't replace roles, but the expectations are certainly higher. And I think of you like to use this word surface area. It just, as an organization, as a nonprofit, as a for profit, as whatever type of organization, you just have more surface area that you need to tend to now.
yeah,
And you have less people to be able to do that, but you're not reducing that further. It's just the expectation is changed. They've raised the bar. Like,
yeah.
that's really all it is. And we've seen this over time. I mean, let's use media as an example. Traditional media, like print media, with the internet, there was fear that it would be replaced. In fact, it just scaled it. It scaled the ability to propagate media in a variety of forms. Think of like traditional finance, but now being able to democratize that with spreadsheets. If anything, that just scaled the need for that as well. So, like, over history, you can also see that the initial thesis was often debunked with, okay, this actually compounded because the expectations were then higher, the needs for it also grew, and it just creates this cycle of demand as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
net, I am still bullish on it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Yeah, I think that, yeah, I think those are 2 actually very interesting examples that you've used. I mean, let's just unpack finance as just one. Um, back now, not old enough to remember horse and buggy and what finance looked like then, but I'll make the assumption that it was very different than it is now. Finance, just the proliferation of technology within the finance industry. Let's just even think banking. I mean, traditionally, I remember as a kid, I had to go to the bank, physically go to the bank, and I had a bank book,
Totally.
and you make a deposit and they fed it through a machine and it printed in the bank book, and that was the ledger that showed debits and credits. And fast forward to today, I mean, obviously, you can bank off of any mobile device, and just the proliferation of technology has enabled the surface area of that particular economy to grow, and
Yeah.
it's just made it that much easier for people to bank. I mean, I know we laugh about this at times. We still have some customers that prefer to send checks in the mail, and while that it's fun to open up a piece of mail and see money inside of it in the form of a check. It's not the most efficient or convenient way for us to receive it, and frankly, for them to send it. But they're doing that. I'm making the assumption that they're doing that because they've got some policies that that align to still sending, a paper version of currency. And so let's maybe, wrap up with unpacking one idea, and we'll use our business, I guess, as the example. Um, Give me, I'll give you the opportunity to answer this, and then
Sure.
I'll answer it as well. Give me one thing or one area of our business, one, something that, you either do or something that you're aware is being done that we're doing better today because of AI.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I'll pick, I'll pick the main medium in which we communicate with our customers is still virtual, is still over Zoom calls or Google Meet calls. And the ability to just automatically transcribe, grab sentiments, grab action items coming out of a recorded call. I mean, all the data is there.
Mhm.
That is just, maybe it's not the highest value thing, but it's something that just saves time. And if you think about that 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hours that would have been saved before, well, that's time that can be poured into value for our customers. So I'd say that's the first of many examples. But first example I can think of is just meeting recordings. How many
Yeah.
times have you historically recorded a meeting and never looked at that recording and or just done nothing with it? It gets filed away. But now being able to produce a transcript, being able to splice that into different pieces of, be it content, action items, inform project plans, inform documentation and training decks. Like there's so much that can be spun off of that, and it's just automatic now. And I think
Yeah.
that's another expectation that has changed. Now, whenever we move to a new tool or whatever, like that's an expectation that in
Yeah.
months
Oh, for sure.
and we pull those expectations. It's funny how the human mind works, and just like when you change that expectation, okay, now it's just onto the next. Well, how can this get that better? And I think that's just human nature, uh,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
So,
I
what
mean,
about yourself?
yeah, I think it's a great example. So, you're referring in this case to Google Meet, which we use for the most part internally, well, even externally with customers. Um, I mean, maybe the transcript feature has been around a year, maybe it's 18 months at the outside. But it feels like it's been here forever. And if they took that away, wow, that would actually cause some pain in the organization. So, so Google, don't take that away from us. That's continue to enhance that. It's an
Yeah,
amazing capability. Um, I would say for myself, we one of the areas that I'm responsible for is just continuing to drive content strategy in terms of what we're communicating externally. And I used to have to think about this and write notes and go back and compare and, just look at what our competitors were saying, look at what Salesforce was saying, try to sort of digest this all into something that uh, was the voice of Belmar. And it is a lot easier to do that today than it's ever been. And like we've mentioned already, we use the Google Stack. Just using Gemini to even go out and curate what is being said in market about a particular topic, and then just use that as a basis for doing your own research on top of that, and then really coming up with I guess
yeah,
our own thought leadership. And I know you've communicated this to me, and maybe even on the pod before, but some of the content that we've put together. Uh, that you've heard from customers or heard from, friends and colleagues, as to being very timely and being, uh, on
yeah,
point to what their needs, were. It used to take a lot of effort. I remember, like, this is not that many years ago, maybe 3, even, well, OpenAI releasing ChatGPT. It was we had to write articles, and we would, tag team members to do it, and then it would go through a review cycle, and back and forth, and we it just took it was a huge amount of effort to do. And it was it creates value in the organization, it creates value for our customers, but it's one of those things that's kinda hard to measure how much value a particular article produces. And so now we can just do that same article, written by, our own ideas, but augmented by AI. But the background research to just get us to a point where we can start writing, just so much faster now to do it. with Gemini. So I would say for me that's probably the biggest benefit that I'm seeing, and
Mhm.
can't wait to see kind of what comes next. I mean, we'll have to cover this in another episode, but just hearing what people are doing with this tool called OpenClaw, uh, doing research, just
Yeah.
like prepping for meetings, prepping customers for meetings, like it's so powerful, and so I mean, we could do a whole series of episodes on this, but
Yeah.
we'll let the technology continue to develop and evolve, and we'll as best as we can advise our clients on how to make the right decisions, and as they're for sure thinking about this as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to track. As we've been talking about this, I've just been thinking of things that were normal before, like things that we were used to before. I mean, just the example of how we like things that expectations change, even saving a Word document as an example, like historically, having to get floppy disks, CDs, USBs to
yeah,
now stuff just auto saves. Like it's just
yeah,
we're just in the middle of some people feel uncomfortable with that growth, but just the expectation, the landscape is changing, and it's interesting to just look at it and take a step back and see how quickly things change. I even just think of remember loading music on your phone, the days of having to plug your phone into iTunes and load stuff on there, or even before that,
never mind your phone. What
and
about your
MP3
your
players or
AirPod or your
yeah,
iPod? Sorry,
yeah,
AirPods have got my ear. iPod is what I used to run with at night after work. So, yeah, it's
yeah.
wild.
It is really wild. So I just it's wild, but it's also so interesting and entertaining to be part of this as well,
Yeah,
to advise our customers and say, hey, this is what's hype. This is where you're at in this journey. This is what makes sense as well. And just being a sounding board for them as well. I think that's where I've been tapped, and I know you've been tapped a lot from our customers, is help us make sense of this because it can be so daunting.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's another tool stack. So
yeah.
yeah, no, this was a timely conversation.
Yeah, Matt. Well, listen, this has been great. And if anybody listening has any questions that you want to bounce, reach out to us, belmarcloud.com. We would be happy to have a conversation about AI, Salesforce, or really any business topic that is on your mind. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you again on the next one.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
This has been another episode of Belmar Bites, brought to you by Belmar Consulting. You can follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or on our website at belmarcloud.com.